Okay, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. My name's Jenny Tomei, so I'm a nutritional therapist and personal trainer. And today we're going to be speaking about menopause and nutrition. I'm also a trainee counsellor as well. So we're going to look at what are some of the outcomes. So we're looking at how to understand menopause. So what is menopause? To recognise how menopause affects women. To understand the general wellbeing issues for women aged 40 plus. Strategies on how to manage these certain issues. So we're going to look at things like nutrition and supplements as well, that have been studied to help with various different types of symptoms. Because everyone is very different when it comes to menopause. Everyone has various different types of symptoms. And then also we're going to look at supplements and lifestyle changes as well. And at the end, if you feel like you want to ask any nutrition-based questions around menopause, I'll be happy to help. But anything sort of medically, hormonally, I would seek out, a hormonal specialist for that or a doctor. And I do have some really good people as well that I can refer you to as well. Okay, so what is perimenopause? So perimenopause is when you have symptoms of menopause, but your periods haven't stopped yet. Okay, so perimenopause ends and you reach menopause when you have not had a period for 12 months, basically. Once you've gone through 12 months without having a period, you've officially reached your menopause. Okay, and the perimenopause is over. Menopause and perimenopause can both cause symptoms. So women experience things like anxiety, mood swings, brain fog, hot flushes, and irregular periods. These symptoms can start years before your periods stop, and they can carry on afterwards as well. So what are some of the signs of perimenopause? So there's just a few here. There's hot flushes, vaginal dryness, sleep disturbances, mood changes, and irregular periods as well. Some women do struggle with things like sleep as well and insomnia, and I'm going to cover that as well. So what is the menopause now? So menopause is the natural, so obviously basically it's when your periods stop, okay? It's when estrogen declines, so there's an estrogen deficiency, okay? And this is a normal, a normal process that happens to all women. It occurs between the ages of 45 and 56. In most women, it can happen a bit earlier, but everyone is very different, okay? Menopause can actually also be triggered by certain conditions such as endometriosis or chemotherapy. So it can trigger early onset of menopause, things like radiation and chronic illnesses as well. So most importantly, how does the menopause affect women? Okay, so symptoms of menopause typically start off quite mild, and then they increase sort of later on when they transition into, when they get more symptoms as you carry on. Okay, sometimes the perimenopause, women do get, really tough symptoms, and it can get worse as they get into the menopause, but everyone is very, very different. Stress does play a big factor, and I'm going to speak about that as well. And some women do get irregular bleeding patterns with changes in their period as well. So symptoms, can vary, as I've said, between everyone. No one is the same. They vary from between 1 to 2 years, okay, with the duration. So what are some of the physical changes that you see and that some women go through? So things like hot flushes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, changes in skin conditions. Okay, so you may notice your skin gets a lot drier, like oily or acne. So again, make sure you're using, things like good moisturizers, things like headaches, muscle and joint pains, difficulty sleeping, so insomnia, discomfort during sex, and weight gain as well. And what are some of the mental health changes? So menopause can cause mood changes. Again, I see a lot of women suffer with like anxiety, depression, irritability, or low mood. Difficulty concentrating, that's the one big thing I hear, like there's a lot of brain fog. And I can go through some strategies on how to manage brain fog as well. feelings of loss of self, hopelessness and demotivation. And there's no surprise, because when you're dealing with such tough symptoms, it's hard to motivate yourself to, do like day-to-day tasks, especially if you're running a business. It's hard. So how are you going to deal with brain fog? Okay. So looking at stress management. Okay, so mindfulness. So engage in mindfulness practices to reduce stress and improve your focus. Okay. Hobbies. So participating in activities that you enjoy. That's really, really important. And that will help you to manage things like stress. Anything that helps you to get into that sort of relaxed state and learning how to relax. It personally took me a long time to realise that I'm not a really chilled out person. I need to learn how to relax more and implement things into my lifestyle that help me to relax. Okay. So cognitive exercises, so brain games, so challenge your brain with puzzles, memory games, and other cognitive activities. Okay. And again, learning new skills, taking up new hobbies, to help stimulate your brain. Regular exercise. So as a PT, I always recommend exercise. I think exercise is great to engage in. It's so good for us in terms of our cardiovascular health and in terms of, our energy level. So exercise, helps you to have more energy. So you can include things like, walking, swimming, cycling, aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. And strength training. So I see time and time again, women not doing enough weights in the gym. So, clients that I work with, I don't do a lot of cardio with them. I do a little bit, but I mostly get them lifting heavy weights in the gym at least twice a week for 45 minutes. That's to prevent muscle mass as we age. So muscle, protects our joints as well, especially when you go through the menopause, because you're more risk at things like osteoporosis because of the decline in estrogen. So weight training has been studied to show to help reduce the effects of that bone density reducing over time. So, and if you're unsure like where to start, work with a trainer that can show you and get you started in the gym. Okay. So really important to be putting in that weight training. Key preventative nutrients in the menopause includes vitamin D. So vitamin D, again, important for your bone health, especially due to the decline in estrogen. So looking at calcium, vitamin C, B vitamins, and protein intake. So when we're stressed, we tend to use up a lot of B vitamins within our body. So, topping up on those can do you no harm. Okay. It's a water-soluble vitamin, so you can't really overdose on it because you'll just pee it out, basically. Okay. But if you get B vitamins, I can recommend some. It will tell you what dosage to take on the bottle. Okay. Again, a healthy diet can counter the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. So diet is really key and prevent sort of chronic illnesses such as cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Energy intake below your BMR. So BMR is your basal metabolic rate. Does not lead to weight loss in the long term, and it is more difficult to maintain on a daily basis. So what that means is going on calorie restricted diets. It's not very healthy for your metabolism, because it lowers your calories that you need at rest, so your BMR. So basically, it's not about a diet here. It's about, lots of variety in the diet, making sure you're strength training, exercising, and eating enough food to support your lifestyle. Okay. So protein and calorie intake. Before I go on to this, does anyone have any questions they want to ask or anything? No, good. Okay, great. So diets with an energy content of less than 1,200 calories, of course, they're associated with a higher risk of micronutrient deficiency, because basically you're eating less, so you're not getting all the nutrients within your diet. It's very hard to do that if you're on a calorie restricted diet. To maintain or increase fat-free body weight and skeletal muscle mass, the daily protein intake should be 1 to 1.2 grams per kilo of body weight, so 20% of your energy. Of course, if you're training and you're trying to gain muscle, that figure will go up. So it would be like 1.4, okay? So a little bit higher. Again, regular exercise along with weight training, the weight training twice per week, and then fitting in some cardio exercise around that as well. Okay, so fluid intake, adequate fluid intake is really important for the transport of nutrients around our system. Okay, we're made of 60% water. So water obviously helps transport all those nutrients around our bodies and delivers all the vitamins and minerals. Okay, estrogen and progesterone significantly affect not only our cardiovascular system, but also fluid and electrolyte balance. Okay. During menopause, hormonal changes can affect things like thirst as well, which also may result in a decrease in your fluid intake. I've put down there just a sort of average guideline of how much fluid you should be having, 2 litres a day, at least if you're training, you need to increase that because if you've got higher sweat rates and things like that. Okay. So dietary fats, another really important area to consider. So during the perimenopause and menopause, the risk of cardiovascular disease increases because there's a decrease in estrogen, which puts you more at risk of cardiovascular disease and things like osteoporosis. So therefore, it's really important to obtain a higher level of essential fatty acids from your diet. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids. So there's 2 types of fatty acids here. You've got the EPA and DHA. You'll see them on a supplement. So when you look for a supplement, you want to look for a higher range of EPA and DHA on the supplement because they're they're extremely important. Of course, you can get it through diet, through eating sources of oily fish, so twice a week, and things like nuts and seeds. Or you can supplement with an omega-3 supplement, which I do always recommend to clients as well. So here are some of the supplements that I use that have a really good EPA and DHA quantity, which is what I've just explained on the previous slide. So you can take a picture of that or just write them down. So Bare Biology are really good. They're a bit more expensive than the average supplement, but they're very good quality, right? So it's all about quality when you're looking at a supplement and the bioavailability of that supplement because each supplement comes in different forms as well. So that's really important to think about. There's a lot of marketing around supplements nowadays, and it's really important to think about, is there any evidence behind that supplement? Have there been any clinical trials? Because anyone can say on a supplement, it does this or claim something. Okay, and you've got to be careful of things like placebo as well. So saturated and trans fats. So when I say trans fats, I'm talking about foods that are like cooked at high temperatures, like using hydrogenated oils, fat. So things like rapeseed oil, sunflower oil. Okay, we want to try and get as much good oils into our diet. So things like looking at a good quality cold pressed olive oil. Flaxseed oil is really good to use, but you can't cook with that. That's just put on like a cold salad or something. Really good source of like omega-3, omega-6. Obviously, you can cook with olive oil. Okay. So yeah, vegetable oils are okay, but it's just about having balance with those. Okay. Try not to make sure that your diet has, too much of those hydrogenated fats in them. Okay. It's about everything in moderation. So dietary fiber is really important. So increasing the fiber content in your diet is essential as it slows down the absorption of things like carbohydrates. So how much fiber do you need? We're looking at 30 to 45, actually 45 grams is a lot. The average person probably gets about 20. So it's really important to think about, am I getting 30 grams of fiber a day? You can consume that from things like whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, barley, fruit. Kiwis are really good. They're really high in fiber as well. So are you getting your 400 grams of vegetables and fruits per day? So whole grains really important, and looking at things like legumes and nuts, and trying to aim for your 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, as this is associated with a reduction of the risk of cardiovascular disease. Again, looking at the link between omega-3 cardiovascular disease. So what are the benefits of increasing your fibre intake? So it has a really positive influence on bacterial flora. Okay. It helps to keep you fuller for longer. Okay, so it stabilizes your blood sugar levels. Again, improved blood sugar control. Blood sugar control is so important, especially when you're going through the menopause, because sometimes you may have fluctuations in your blood sugar. So thinking about, am I getting enough fibre in? Am I eating foods that are stabilizing my blood sugar so I don't end up getting cravings? Okay, so the British Dietetic Association recommendation, I just thought I'd put this up. They recommend to consume at least 4 to 5 servings of unsalted nuts, seeds, and legumes per week, avoiding things like refined sugars such as sweets, cakes, and soft drinks. Okay, again, everything in moderation, right? It's kind of like the rule of like that 80-20. So 80% of the foods that we should be eating, 20% of the foods that we have on those occasions. It highlights heart-friendly nature of oats, so jumbo oats, whole grains and whole wheat bread. Legumes such as lentils, chickpeas. I personally like butter beans. They're a really good source of protein. They're all excellent sources of fibre as well. Okay. And you can buy them, and if you don't have time to prep all this, I understand this takes time, you can buy them in tins as well, and you can buy them in glass jars, some of the beans and lentils, okay? I know Marks and Spencer sell them in glass jars as well. Okay, next part, we're going to look at bone health. Okay, I have mentioned a bit about osteoporosis. It's a chronic progressive health problem that affects many women during the menopause. Okay, and there is going to be a decrease in bone. Okay, again, a majority are seeing both the hip and spine. So how do you prevent that? Again, maintaining a healthy weight, really crucial. Weight training, you've got to get weight training at least twice a week. Okay, that's going to prevent that bone loss. And making sure you've got adequate intake of vitamin D. Calcium, you can test your vitamin D quite easily, and you can do it via pinprick from a place called Medichecks. I think it's about £45 for a vitamin D tech if you are struggling with waiting times to your GP. Okay, and try to reduce things like smoking and alcohol as well. Again, so vitamin D, really important in the months of October to March because we don't have any sun. So you should be supplementing. The bare minimum is 400 IUs per day. Okay. I take a bit more than that because I feel better when my vitamin D is a lot higher because I have more energy. Okay. It's a fat soluble vitamin. Okay. Sources are in things like egg yolks, dairy products. Okay, but it's very hard to get it all from feed. In the winter months, you do have to supplement from it. About 80% of dietary vitamin D is actually absorbed in the small intestine, so it's absorbed well. Okay. When you're out in the sun as well, like it's just obviously wear your sunscreen, but maybe put a lower factor on, or just sit in the sun for 10 minutes, then apply your sunscreen so you're getting your daily dose of vitamin D. Okay, again, it's all just about moderation. So vitamin D, this is a supplement that I use with clients quite a lot. It's a really good one. So it's liquid, it's more bioavailable to the body. It's got K2 in it, which has also been shown to help with bone support. Okay, so about 1,000 IUs per day. This provides with 3 drops. Say from October to March, you should be supplementing with vitamin D. okay, especially if you're going through the menopause. So calcium, this can normally be covered by a balanced diet unless you have a problem with, your calcium, basically. The absorption of calcium is primarily influenced by vitamin D, but it can be improved by incorporating things like dairy products. Okay. Dairy products contain the most absorbable calcium. Okay. Obviously, mineral waters have a high mineral content as well. Again, regular consumption of soft-boned fish such as canned sardines, pickled herring, anchovy, as well as oil seeds and food supplements. You can also look at salmon as well, things like sea bass, mackerel. I mean, I'm personally not a fan of sardines, but salmon is really good to have. You can get like a really good wild Alaskan salmon that has been shown to have that high omega-3 levels as well. So vitamin C. Okay, so vitamin C is necessary for bone formation due to its role in collagen formation. Okay, its absorption is about 80%. Okay, so vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, right? So you have to keep topping up on it. The recommended dose of that is 100 milligrams per day. But that can vary in someone who has a high training load, and they may need more vitamin C. So sources are, vegetables, fruits, kiwis are a really good source of vitamin C, and red peppers. Okay, they have a really good source. So trying to think about, am I getting enough of this in my diet on a day-to-day basis? So B vitamins, I've spoke about B vitamins, and they also play an important role in the menopause. Okay. They play a fundamental role in the processing and digesting of carbohydrates and helping your nervous system function. As I said, when you're stressed, you use up a lot of B vitamins within your body. So it's really important to put those back in. Okay. I've mentioned here about high homocysteine levels have been associated with things like osteoporosis. High homocysteine levels, you can test for that, but unfortunately you wouldn't get that on the NHS. Okay. You'd have to go private with that. So what are some sources of B vitamins? So we're looking at meat, fish, eggs. Okay, if you're on a vegan or vegetarian diet, it's a little bit harder, but you can supplement as well. But just make sure you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and including things like whole grains, so brown rice, barley, all your legumes. Avocados are great. They're a great source of B6, boron and folate. Dairy products, leafy greens, seeds, and fortified foods. And nutritional yeast is really good for vegans and vegetarians. Okay. So sleep and the menopause. Okay, so we're going to talk about that now. The circadian rhythm plays an important role in the regulation of metabolic processes. Okay. So sleep deprivation affects obviously your energy intake, your glucose uptake, and things like leptin resistance. Okay. Obviously, if you're not sleeping well, it's going to cause you to feel tired but wired, kind of thing. And then that can also increase your cortisol levels, so your stress hormone within the body, which we obviously want to reduce. We don't want you having too high cortisol. Okay. Having too high cortisol can also inhibit things like weight loss as well. So again, for people who do all the tons and tons of cardio, and I say to them, right, let's just cut that and do strength training, because that is less stress on the body. Okay. So this is a supplement that I do use with clients who struggle with sleep. So magnesium glycinate is excellent for sleep. So there's different types of magnesium, right? So Mega Mag Calm Ease is good. This one is a good one because it's got taurine in it, and it's got glycine, it's got magnesium glycinate, and it's also got some B vitamins in it as well. Okay, and vitamin C to help ease physical tension, helps with that kind of brain fog as well. All right, so that's a really good one to go take a look at if you've been experiencing some symptoms as well. So the importance of melatonin. Okay, so foods containing melatonin can directly affect things like sleep. Adequate amounts of tryptophan, a precursor of melatonin, have a positive effect on sleep. Vitamins and trace elements, okay, that participate in the cofactors of melatonin. So the cofactor to make melatonin is things like B6, B12, magnesium, and zinc. Okay. Zinc, that is a very abundant mineral in the body. I'm not sure that we all get enough from it. Obviously, lamb is really high in it, things like oysters. I personally don't eat those sort of foods because I don't like lamb or oysters, but I eat other types of meats as well. So I would say with zinc, for people who aren't eating a lot of meat or things like fish, I would definitely look into a supplement for things like zinc because that's really important for your immune system as well. Okay, you can get zinc from anywhere, sort of from, if you Google sort of, it's different brands. If you'd like any brand names, just let me know and I can provide some information around that. But again, of course, adequate sleep, as we know, is really important for our overall mood, our energy levels, and our recovery, so we feel fresh to start the day again. So a balanced diet has shown to have a positive effect on the quality of sleep. Okay. So food and meals containing sufficient protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats. Okay. Again, omega-3 comes up, which has shown to have a positive influence of serotonin. So serotonin is our happy hormone. We make it from things like carbohydrates. So you make serotonin from carbohydrates. We get it from the sun as well. Obviously, everyone's happy when the sun's out, right? So, and then we also get it from exercise. Okay. Serotonin can reduce with things like stress. So stress can reduce our serotonin. Makes sense, right? When we're stressed, we get low mood and we're not necessarily very happy. So keeping their stress levels down are really good for that serotonin level within your body. Again, regular eating is important, right? So a regular eating schedule plays an important role in our metabolism, okay? Too many times where I've worked with clients who want to diet or who have yo-yo dieted and they'd follow extreme diets, and then we have to kind of do this sort of thing like reverse dieting to improve their metabolism. And that means eating at regular times, no restriction, incorporating things like weight training to increase muscle mass. All these things help towards metabolism. Okay. Again, sleep is most affected by timing and quality of things like dinner. Okay, so try not to eat too late. Eat a little bit earlier if you can. It's recommended to have dinner at least 2 hours before bedtime. Okay. Drinking a lot right before bedtime, is obviously not recommended because you're going to end up getting up through the night and having to go to the toilet, basically. Okay, which obviously you want to avoid. So what are some sources of tryptophan? So that's a really important protein. Okay, so it's a precursor to making serotonin. So things like sea fish, so codfish, shellfish, algae for vegans and vegetarian. You can supplement with that. Eggs, soy, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, so all your different types of seeds, cheeses. Yeast also contains a higher level of tryptophan as well. Okay. Source of melatonin, again, meat, fish, eggs, all your proteins, nuts, cherries. So you've probably often seen in stores, everyone's selling cherries. So that helps to produce melatonin, okay, and strawberries. Okay, I know I've covered a lot there and gotten over a lot. If you have any questions so far, just let me know. There's a little bit more to get through, not too much. But here's just a summary. You can take a photo of that. of what I've recommended. Okay, so protein, 0.8 is your bare minimum, okay, per kilo of body weight per day. I'd recommend between 1 to 1.2. If you're weight training, I'd recommend more. So calcium, vitamin D, vitamin C, B vitamins, really important. Omega-3 fatty acids, so oily fish twice per week. Fruit and vegetables, 300 to 400 grams, so 3 to 4 portions per day. So really important for our overall gut health. Okay, believe it or not, your gut health is related to your hormones as well. So if you've got good variety, like you've got good bacterial strains in your gut, that means your hormones are going to function well, because there's obviously a big link with that. And you can change that through changing your diet. And then you've got legumes we've spoken about. So all your beans, peas, chickpeas, low-fat dairy products, red meat, maybe once a week. If you eat red meat, it's fine to have red meat. A good quality organic red meat is more preferable if you can get your hands on that. And then fish, okay. Preferably line-caught fish. You can have farmed, but line-caught fish is more preferable. Nuts and seeds, dietary fibres. And what things to avoid. So simple, fast-acting sugars, again, smoking, sugar, alcohol, a sedimentary lifestyle. Okay, so if you've got a desk job, thinking about how you can incorporate more exercise into your routine. Okay, salt, maximum 5 grams per day. And then saturated fat, do not exceed 10% of the total energy intake. Okay, so just a summary there for you to kind of go away and think about. Okay, so how are you going to deal with stress? So we all get stressed in our lives. You know, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Okay, so ashwagandha is a type of adaptogenic herb. Okay, and it has been studied to help with things like stress levels. Okay, so small trials have been carried out on its effects to help reduce depression and things like cortisol levels, so your stress hormone. It's definitely been shown to help regulate cortisol. You can take it in very different ways if you've not heard of it. So ashwagandha is one of the most popular ones out adaptogenic herbs. Okay. Sorry, there's a link there. I can send that in the chat at the end, actually. So this is called adaptogenic coffee. So it contains things like rhodiola and ashwagandha. So rhodiola is really good for things like focus. Okay, especially if like there's ADHD. Okay, so who struggle with autism as well, or so ADHD, lack of focus. Rhodiola is really good for things like focus and clarity, and this adaptogenic coffee does contain that. I've started trying it actually because I struggle with things like my focus when I'm doing a specific task that requires a lot of focus, and I found that is personally helping me as well. So I can send you the link to that if you're interested. Okay. So this is KSM 66 ashwagandha supplement. So it's recommended to have 500 milligrams per day. Okay. So this Wild Nutrition is pretty good, and you can get that online, and you can take 1 capsule per day. I take it at night because it's meant to have a calming effect, but you need to give this at least 6 weeks for your body to kind of, you know, take it in, digest it, to have an effect on it. Okay, so with natural medicine, it takes a lot longer to see effects from something. Okay, rather than taking a drug where you see immediate effects. With natural stuff, it just takes a lot longer. Okay. And then you've got Agnus cactus, okay, also known as chase tree berry. Okay, it's a herbal remedy often used to alleviate symptoms associated with menopause. It can also help balance progesterone levels within the body. There's evidence that it can help improve that. Okay, so it may alleviate symptoms such as things like hot flashes, night sweats, and mood swings. Okay, it can also help reduce things like breast pain and tenderness. But also, if you're taking a good omega-3 supplement, okay, or starfish oil as well, it's really good to help reduce things like breast pain as well. Some studies suggest that Agnus cactus can improve mood and also sleep quality. Again, this is a natural approach. As a natural remedy, it's often preferred for those looking to avoid HRT. Okay, obviously, I've heard some amazing things from women who do go on HRT, but some women do experience side effects of HRT. But there are different forms of HRT that you can go on. I would recommend looking into like bioidentical hormones. So bioidentical estrogen and things like eutregestin. So eutregestin is made of yams, okay? So it's a more natural sort of form of progesterone. Not every gynecologist offers that. But if you'd like someone that does offer bioidentical hormones, I can recommend someone that's very good as well. But it's because obviously you can have the patch or you can take the pill of estrogen, but everyone is very different. So you've got to think about what works best for you, and work with a hormonal specialist that that has the time for you and to work with you and to help you with your symptoms. That's really important. Okay. All right. So Agnus cactus, how does it work? Okay, so it helps to regulate basically your hormone production and helps balance them. Okay, and it helps to reduce the severity of menopausal symptoms. So that has been the most studied natural remedy to help balance hormones. Okay. There's some references there as well. If you want to have a look at that and want links to any of the information that I have spoken about. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? You can email me as well if you have any questions. That's my website. You can email me there, or you can email Gary as well.
Jenny, we've had one question
Oh,
from Amber. How can we accurately calculate BMR?
You want to calculate your resting metabolic rate. Okay. Yeah, you'd have to do that for a series of keeping a food diary and calorie intake for 2 to 3 weeks and then stop it. Don't continue it, because that's, I work with people to try and come away from calorie counting, but you'd get an idea of what your basal metabolic rate is, and if you're maintaining your weight on a certain amount of calories, then you'll know, basically. So that's how you work it out through food diary and looking at your calorie intake over the 2 to 3 weeks. And just working out where you sit in terms of your calories.
Yeah, Amber, if you want to come back on that, please do. Otherwise, Jenny, if there's one thing that you would recommend as a takeaway from today's presentation, what would it be?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're struggling with symptoms, I would always say talk to someone about it, talk to your GP about it. But I'd always say go see a specialist gynecologist and someone that offers you options if you are considering things like HRT. So, because there's different routes that you can go down in terms of the bioidentical hormones that I talked about. Okay. And making sure that if you don't feel good and it's not helping you, making sure that you go back. Okay. And to speak to your gynecologist or your professional about how you're feeling, and just know that you're not really alone. Really, there's lots of women going through this, and it can be really hard as well. So, and there's things out there that you can do to support yourself.
Good. And of course, as you've just said, we've got a question from Follow here. I have been experiencing left hip pains and have difficulty standing. I also have left wrist pain.
Okay.
Any suggestions on that?
I mean, I'd ask, when did that first start? What triggered that? Was it, I'd have to ask that first. When did that? Yeah.
Follow, if you want to respond to that. Also, we got another one from Alex now. Are there any supplements that help irregular bleeding? Had a period for you've just said months, but for months here?
No, not that I know of any supplements, but I'd speak to your GP gynecologist about irregular periods, looking for things like ruling out things like PCOS and things like that. Because that, and making sure there's no diagnosis of that, but there are no supplements that, and I'd look at what's happening with your estrogen, progesterone, have you had any blood tests around that? Again, this is going to a hormonal specialist. I do know someone really good, if you'd like her link. She's a bit expensive, but she certainly helped me with the medical side. And so it just happened. Okay. I assume that you're going through the menopause, so things like joint pain, and it's quite common if your estrogen's low as well. So I'd take on board some of the suggestions I made around vitamin D as well, getting your estrogen tested. I'm not sure if you are on HRT or not, but again, are you moving? Are you going to the gym? Are you strength training? How's your bone density? Okay. I'd think about all those things as well. Because if there's joint pain, I'd definitely speak to a hormonal specialist about that if there's been a decline in things like estrogen. Okay. Increased feed sensitivity to menopause. Okay. That I'm thinking gut health there and blood sugar. It depends on what types of symptoms you're getting. Because when you say food sensitivities, I'm going to ask, okay, what have you seen? What's been happening? Have you had more bloating? Have you had more IBS? Yeah. Okay, bloating. Okay. Okay, yeah, bloating is quite common. I'd look at things like stress levels with bloating. If it continues, have you noticed any specific foods that trigger it? I'd look at your eating. Are you slowing down your eating? Are you eating too quickly? That can also cause a lot of things like bloating as well. Okay. Yeah, so I'd kind of look at baseline first. Eating your food slowly, not eating when you're stressed. That can also help to alleviate things like bloating. Are you going to the toilet regularly? So are you having regular bowel movement? Okay, that's really important, because if you're constipated, that can also cause you to bloat. Okay, so there can be changes in gut microbiome transit. So I'd look at things like fiber, increasing your fiber intake. Hope that helps.
There's another question from Victoria there, Jenny.
That's okay.
How do you prolong the menopause from coming?
A very good question. I am not medically trained to answer that question, if that's all right. That would be a more medical question that you'd have to ask from a medical perspective in terms of hormones, all right? And so best natural source of iron. I mean, obviously red meat is, if you eat red meat, okay? So things like broccoli, okay? If you're vegan or vegetarian, you need to add vitamin C in order to absorb the iron better. So squeezing a bit of orange or lemon juice over, your spinach, okay? You can also supplement with iron if you're naturally low on iron. I'm someone that naturally is low on iron. That's a genetic thing. I supplement with mine. I supplement iron with a slow release source of iron throughout the day, because I don't eat red meat every day. Like the average woman needs at least 14 milligrams of iron per day. There is no way that we're getting that from our diet. So I'd say, supplement if you want to. Ferrograd is a really good one, slow release source of iron. Spartone as well. Again, red meat, leafy green vegetables, okay, for iron. Because I train a lot, I need more extra iron. That's why I supplement, okay? Hope that helps. Again, making sure you're adding vitamin C to absorb non-heme iron, which comes from things like green leafy vegetables. All right. Any more questions, anyone? Okay, great.
Yeah, we've had quite a few questions. I'd like to thank Jenny for today's presentation. There is a version of this that she did about 3 months ago on our YouTube channel. If you look for Future Communities on YouTube, or if you go onto the CNT Associates YouTube channel, and right at the bottom of the homepage is Future Communities homepage is the featured channel as well, because I know some of you have looked at our website. This will go, as I said earlier, onto our YouTube channel probably at the beginning of July. This is part of a program funded by the National Lottery to support well-being for women aged over 40. And you can see two of my colleagues here today. There's Jenny and Sybil Mayard as well, who's been doing some work on this program too. We've got a number of other presentations in due course, including one on physical well-being and other aspects of well-being. That will be on the 18th of September, and there are more in the pipeline over the next few months. Maybe Jenny may be joining us again on another one. So I will put it back to you, Jenny. Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, sure. So there's another question here.
All right.
Yeah, you can get lactose-free sources if you feel like you have a dairy intolerance, so you can get lactose-free sources. There's also a really good coconut yogurt out now that they've brought out, and it's got more protein in it. So always go for the coconut yogurt with protein in it. You can get it. I've seen it in Waitrose and Sainsbury's now. But yeah, if you've got a lactose, you're missing the enzyme in order to absorb the dairy properly. Then just go for lactose-free options, but make sure they're not too high in sugar, because the lactose-free options I've seen, they just put sugar in them. So just be careful of that.
Okay, thank you for that question, Amber. Alex, any supplement help with dry skin?
Okay. Yeah, I'd look at sort of omega-3, omega-6. So oils for skin. Okay. I'd obviously, as we age now, our skin does get dry and it's hard to, get enough from feed. But I'd say make sure you're drinking enough water. Okay. And, using a very good quality moisturizer. Okay. As we age, collagen formation reduces. So vitamin C helps to produce collagen. So getting enough vitamin C in your diet. You can take collagen, like marine collagen powder. Okay. That's obviously good to help with collagen formation, to help with skin. Okay. But with skin, again, oily fish, a good moisturizer. There's only so much you can do with diet. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Yeah. So are you hydrated? I'd say there's no specific supplement to help with dry skin. Okay. It's a multifactorial issue, that.
Okay, if anybody has any questions, yeah, please put them in the chat, or you can ask live if you wish. We have had quite a few.
Thanks, guys, for your questions.
Yes. Okay. there don't seem to be any others. So I'd just like to thank Jenny today for a very informed presentation. Can I say, as a man as well, one of the benefits of this program is that I've learned more about this issue and its impact on women, which I didn't know much about, to be honest, like many other men don't. So thank you for that. It's very much appreciated, and by the looks of things from the comments we're getting in the chat, it's there as well. So Jenny, I'll give the last word to you.
Yeah, no, thank you all for coming. I hope you all enjoyed it. Any other questions, you can email Gary or just email me. You know, I do know a really good, you know, if you want to see a hormone specialist and you feel like you want to dive deeper into it, I've got some good contacts, as I can only sort of provide from a nutrition perspective. But I hope you all enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you very much. And as I said earlier, there will be more. If you look at our website, Future Communities, future-communities.org.uk, there's more resources on that as well that you can access, and there will be more. And there'll be more presentations over the next few months. So thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.